What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion of all times. Of course, I'm a Joe Louis fan, but perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion of all times. Cassius K. Louisville Lip, Muhammad Ali. Let's take a look at his career. Now, Muhammad Ali was born January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. He stood 6'3" and weighed anywhere between 188 and 236.5 pounds. He was managed by Herb Muhammad and trained by Angelo Dundee. February 1958 started his boxing career in Louisville Golden Gloves. Alex Watt, Francis Turley, Kent Green would all succumb to Muhammad Ali's greatness, and he would win the Louisville Golden Gloves. That same year, 1958, he would participate in the Western Golden Gloves. Tony Gardner, National Golden Glove Light Heavyweight Champion. Chicago versus New York Inner City Championship. Western versus Eastern Inner City Championship. Pan American Games Light Heavyweight Championships. Western Heavyweight Golden Gloves. National AAU Light Heavyweight Golden Gloves. The Olympic Light Heavyweight Championship. Muhammad Ali has done it all in the amateurs. One of the greatest amateur fighters of all times, Muhammad Ali. Let's take a look at his professional career. Now, as you can see here, Muhammad Ali was an amateur phenomenon. He would win a 1960 Golden Gloves in a light heavyweight division. Then he would turn professional in 1960. And he would fight an old veteran, Tony Hastacker, in Louisville, Kentucky on October 29th, 1960. He would defeat him in 6 rounds. That would be his first victory as a professional. And he would go on and fight fighters such as Herb Silver, Tony Epstein, Jim Robinson, Donnie Philman, Lamar Clark, Alonzo Johnson, Alex Mitiff, Louisville on October 7th. He would knock him out in 6 rounds. Alex Mitiff, he was from Canada. He would have good fights with George Shafalo in Canada. 1962, February 10th, Muhammad Ali would face Sonny Banks in New York, and he would knock him out in 4 rounds. Very good victory. Sonny Banks had a great deal of experience. February 28th, he would face Don Warner in Miami Beach. He would knock him out in 4 rounds. Now, Muhammad Ali trained on 5th Street Gym in Miami Beach. And this is where you had Angelo Dundee's gym. The gym belonged to his older brother, Chris Dundee. But at that time, you had fighters in there such as Willie Pastrano, Jose Torres, just to name a few. May 19th, he would face Billy Daniels in New York, and he would knock him out in 7 rounds. November 15th, he would face former light heavyweight champion of the world, one of the greatest. I have this man, the greatest light heavyweight champion of all times, in Los Angeles, and he would knock him out in 4 rounds. That would be Archie Moore. Now, that fight came to fruition because Archie Moore was asking Muhammad Ali to sweep the floor just to keep him disciplined. And Muhammad Ali was very insulted that he would even be asked to sweep the floor. So he told Archie Moore, "I will whip you like you my granddaddy." Archie Moore said, you know what? He threw the broom down and said, "Let's have it." And some of the handlers said, not here, let's make a fight out of it. And before you know it, they made a card out of it. Archie Moore was going around campaigning more than 4, and that's pretty much what happened. Archie Moore took a knee and couldn't get up after the 4th round. You're looking at an out of shape, obviously over his prime, Archie Moore. 1963, January 24th, he would face former San Francisco 49ers football player Charlie Powell, very good fighter. He was out of Newark, New Jersey. This fight took place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he knocked him out in 3 rounds. Now at this time, Muhammad Ali was calling all his fights. He was naming the rounds he was going to knock his opponents out, and he's been correct. Up until March 13th, 1963, he would come up against a New York fighter by the name of Doug Jones. Doug Jones was from New York, and Ali didn't know about Doug Jones. Doug Jones could fight. And he fought him in New York, and he defeated him in 10 rounds, but he got dropped himself early in that round. And he couldn't knock out Doug Jones. And then a newspaper journalist started to write, maybe Muhammad Ali doesn't have it. At the time, Cassius Clay. So at this point in time, Muhammad Ali made it his business to get it right. He stopped calling the fights, but he would give little hints as to when he thought the round would be over. June 8th, 1963, he would face Henry Cooper, London, England. He would knock him out in 5 rounds. And he would finally get a shot after campaigning for a heavyweight championship. He would be taunting Sonny Liston. He had a bus that he drove on the front lawn of Sonny Liston's house. He would go to his sparring sessions and torment Sonny Liston. He would have a little bear, and we would call him the Big Ugly Bear. So February 25th, 1964, he would get his shot in Miami Beach, Florida, at the convention center. And he would knock him out in 7 rounds and win the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Sonny Liston was intimidating all of his opponents, but he couldn't intimidate Muhammad Ali. And when they came for the face-off in the middle of the ring, before the fight started, Ali was actually taller than Sonny Liston. And Ali looked right into Sonny Liston's eyes. And there was no fear in Ali's eyes. So Sonny Liston would come out in the opening bell, like he normally would, stalking his opponent. And Ali's head was nowhere to be found. He would be sliding from side to side. He would be moving his head back, which is against the Queensberry rules, but Ali was quick enough in order to get away with that. And this was frustrating Sonny Liston. And when he couldn't hit Ali, he became even more frustrated. So one of the handlers would put Marcel solution on the glove of Sonny Liston. And eventually, the Marcel solution got into the eye of Muhammad Ali. And Ali couldn't see. And Angelo Dundee cut Muhammad Ali's glove. And the only instructions he could give Muhammad Ali was to run, because Ali wanted the gloves taken off. He wanted to prove that there was some con game going on. And Ali said, no, this is for the heavyweight championship of the world. I need you to go back out there. And he stood him up and shoved him when the bell rings and told him to run. And Muhammad Ali started to dance, started to move, and once his tear ducts started to clear, he would pop Sonny Liston with the jab. He would move from side to side. Sonny Liston couldn't hit him, and it got to a point where Sonny Liston said, after the 7th round, my shoulder is bothering me, I cannot continue. And Sonny Liston quit on the stool, and Muhammad Ali became the heavyweight champion of the world. Fascinating story from a kid from Louisville, Kentucky. By the way, that cut glove was in a Henry Cooper fight after Ali got dropped in the 4th round. And he was dazed. 1965, May 25th, Sonny Liston, Louisville, Kentucky. He would be knocked out in the 1st round. They claim to be a phantom punch. That argument goes on till today. You had Jersey Joe Walcott as the referee. Now Flasher was distracting Jersey Joe Walcott, told him to come to him in the middle of the fight. And then Jersey Joe Walcott would come back into the center of the ring and stop the fight. It was an unbelievable moment. And at that time, Muhammad Ali actually came and made an announcement and said that he was with the Nation of Islam. He would retain the World Heavyweight Championship. 1965, he would face his stablemate. On July 31st, Jimmy Ellis, San Juan, Puerto Rico. He had a 3rd round exhibition, July 31st. Cody Jones, San Juan, Puerto Rico. 3-round exhibition. August 16th, he would face Cody Jones again in Goatsport, Sweden, and have a 2nd round exhibition. Now, August 20th, he would face Cody Jones. As I said, he would have that 4-round exhibition. But on November 22nd, he would face Floyd Patterson in Las Vegas. And he would knock out Floyd Patterson in the 12th round to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. The problem with Floyd Patterson in that fight, he had a bad back. And he couldn't straighten up. The reason why he had a bad back was because of the jab. The stiff jab was constantly landing on the nose, the forehead, the side of the jaw of Floyd Patterson. And when you get hit with a jab, the L1, the L2, and the L4 begin to lock up because your neck continues to snap back. So that's what stopped Floyd Patterson in the 12th round. 1966, March 29th, George Cavallo, Toronto. George Cavallo could take a punch. And he was basically a human punching bag in that fight. But he would be defeated by Muhammad Ali in the 15th round. And Ali would retain his World Heavyweight Championship. May 21st, Henry Cooper, London, England. He would knock him out in 6 rounds. August 6th, Brian London. In London, England, he would knock him out in 3 rounds. And retain his World Heavyweight Championship. September 10th, Karl Mertenberger, Frankfurt, Germany. He would retain his Heavyweight Championship. 12-round knockout. November 14th, Cleveland Williams, Houston. Knock him out in 3 rounds, retain the World Heavyweight Championship. To this day, that was the greatest performance of Muhammad Ali's career. That Cleveland Williams fight. Now, don't let nobody kid you. Cleveland Williams was one of the hardest punchers in heavyweight history, if you look at his stats. And he fought Ernie Terrell earlier. And Cleveland Williams was something else, I'll tell you. He was stopped by Sonny Liston, but he could punch. And the performance that Muhammad Ali put on Cleveland Williams that night is a thing to behold. I urge you to watch that performance between Muhammad Ali and Cleveland Williams. Outstanding. 1967, February 6th, he would face a fella by the name of Ernie Terrell in Houston, Texas. He would defeat him in 15 rounds. But he would punish Ernie Terrell because Ernie Terrell refused to call him Muhammad Ali. He would consistently call him Cassius Clay. Clay told him, when we get in the center of the ring, you better call me Muhammad Ali. So in one of the little press conferences they had, Howard Cosell was in the middle of it, antagonizing things as usual. Muhammad Ali slapped Ernie Terrell. And that was it. That really frustrated Ernie Terrell. Ernie Terrell tried to knock out Muhammad Ali. And Ali would move his head, he would slide, he would hit him when he wanted to hit him, he would taunt him. In between rounds and in the middle of the fight, he would ask him, "What's my name?" And Ali was fined and suspended for a short time. March 22nd, he would face Zora Foley. He would knock out Zora Foley in the 7th round. Zora Foley was a veteran. They fought in New York's Madison Square Garden. Very good fight. In fact, it was one of the first fights I ever witnessed. I had a reel-to-reel of that fight. It's one of my first fights I've ever witnessed. That fight took place March 22nd, 1967. June 15th, he would face Alvin Blue Lewis, Detroit, exhibition, 3 rounds. June 15th, Orville Qualls, Detroit, Michigan, he would have an exhibition in 3 rounds. He'd be inactive. 68, 69, and 70, because he refused to take he rejected the Vietnam War, and he took a stand that he was not going to fight against the Viet Congs. They didn't do anything to him. In fact, if anything, what was being done to him was in his own country. Couldn't drink out of the same water fountain. He had to sit in the back of the bus. And he took a stand. And I salute Muhammad Ali for that. Clay announced his ring retirement at a special newsmen's gathering he had called on February 3rd, 1970, at which he offered his belts to the winner of the Frazier-Quarry fight. His offer was turned down by Frazier because Frazier refused to enter a tournament. On September 10th, 1970, he announced his return to an active campaign in the ring and signed a contract to meet Jerry Quarry in Atlanta. And I'll tell you, all the pimps came out that night. You had fur coats, you had leather boots, you had it all. October 26th, Jerry Quarry, Atlanta. He knocked him out in the 3rd round. December 7th, Oscar Bonavena, New York. He knocked him out in 15 rounds. And that was to set up the famous fight in 1971 against Muhammad Ali and Smoking Joe Frazier. So on March 8th, 1971, Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali would get it on in Madison Square Garden. Ali would lose a 15-round decision. But if he got dropped in the 15th round, he would get up and finish the fight. He'd be staggered in the 11th and hurt in the 7th. That was one of the greatest heavyweight championship bouts in the entire history of the game. I remember that fight, and it meant a great deal to me, as it did others. Fascinating night of boxing. You had the who's at the Garden that night. Frank Sinatra was the photographer in that fight. Fascinating night of boxing. June 25th, J.D. McCauley in Dayton, Ohio. He would have an exhibition of 2 rounds. And he would continue his exhibitions with Eddie Brooks, Rufus Brassel, Alex Mack, Eddie Brooks. July 26th, he would face Jimmy Ellis in Houston. Angelo Dundee would be in the corner of Jimmy Ellis. Jimmy Ellis was Muhammad Ali's stablemate. He knocked him out in 12 rounds. Then he'd go back to some more exhibitions. And what was happening, Ali needed the money. That's why he was doing a lot of exhibitions. Eddie Brooks, Lancer Johnson, Port of Spain. These are all exhibitions. James Somerville, Miguel Paez, Buster Mathis. He would defeat him in 12 rounds on November 17th. Now, Buster Mathis was going to win the Olympic Games. But the problem in 68, but the problem was he hurt his hand. So Joe Frazier was next in line for the Olympics, and Joe Frazier would win, with a broken thumb, the gold medal in the 1968 Olympic Games. 1972, April 1st, Mac Foster, Tokyo. He would defeat him in 15 rounds. George Chuvalo, defeat him in 12 rounds. Jerry Quarry, knock him out in 7 rounds. He would have a bunch of exhibitions, as you can see here. He would knock out Al Blue Lewis in 11 rounds. More exhibitions. He would knock out a rematch of Floyd Patterson in 7 rounds. More exhibitions with Ray Anderson and others. These was a lot of these fighters were sparring partners. Bob Foster, November 21st. He would knock him out in 8 rounds. Bob Foster was the hardest, in my opinion, light heavyweight punch in the entire history of the game. I have Bob Foster ranked number 4 of the greatest light heavyweight champions of all times, right behind Roy Jones. 1973, February 14th, Joe Bugner. March 31st, Ken Norton. September 10th, Ken Norton. Now the Ken Norton fights would be classics. He would lose to Norton in 12th round because he fought with a broken jaw. Then he would defeat Ken Norton in 12 rounds. That was very controversial. 1974, January 28th, Smoking Joe Frazier, New York, American heavyweight title. He would defeat him in 12 rounds. October 30th, the Rumble in the Jungle, George Foreman, Kashaka. He would knock him out in 8 rounds to regain the World Heavyweight Championship of the world. Fascinating. So Floyd Patterson was the first heavyweight to regain his championship against Ingemar Johansson. Muhammad Ali was the second against George Foreman. 75, he would fight fighters such as Chuck Webner, knock him out in 15 rounds, retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Ron Lyle, Las Vegas, knock him out in 11 rounds, retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Joe Bugner, defeat him in 15 rounds, retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Smoking Joe Frazier and Manila, he would knock him out in 4 rounds, retain the World Heavyweight Championship. As you can see here, 4 title defenses in 1975. You don't have that today. 1976. Fascinating. You fight Jimmy Young and Jean Pierre. Ken Norton. 71. 77. Exhibitions. He would fight Ernie Davis and defeat him in 15 rounds. September 29th, 1977. Scott DeLue. June 2nd, 5th round exhibition. 1978, February 15th, he would face the 1976 heavyweight Olympic gold medalist, Leon Spinks, Las Vegas. And he would lose to him in 15 rounds and lose the World Heavyweight Championship. Now this particular fight is why these titles were split up. And you had Ken Norton, who had defeated Jimmy Young and was promised a shot at the heavyweight championship. And when they had a rematch with Spinks and Ali, the WBC has stripped that title away from him and allowed Ken Norton to face Larry Holmes for the WBC heavyweight strap. And I'll tell you, that was the greatest heavyweight championship match in years between Norton and Larry Holmes. September 15th, 1978, Leon Spinks, New Orleans. And he would defeat Spinks in 15 rounds and regain the World Heavyweight Championship of the world. He would have that championship 3 times. Then he would go on and face Larry Holmes in 1980. Took a beating. Angelo Dundee had stopped it. Then we fight one more time, Yama Bahama in 1981 against Trevor Berbick. But Ali would have total bouts of 59. He would have 37 knockouts 19 victory, win on a decision, lost on a foul none, lost on a decision 3 times. He was knocked out no times, actually a TKO. So salute to Muhammad Ali. I just want to take a look at something here. His amateur pedigree. One of the greatest of all times. Let's take a look at his amateur pedigree. Now let's look at something here. The semifinals of the Rome Olympics. And as you look here, you have the light heavyweight, Cassius Clay, USA, defeated Anthony Magon in Australia on points. So he would win the semifinals in the Rome Olympics. Here, 1960s U.S. Olympic trials. These were the winners. Held at San Francisco, California, May 17th through the 20th. And here you had 178 pounds, Cassius Clay, Louisville, Kentucky. Fascinating. Here, 1960 National AAU Championships, held at Toledo, Ohio, April 7th, 8th, and 9th. 178 pounds, Cassius Clay, Louisville, Kentucky. Retained Title I in 1959. O'Shea and Shomo won 139 and 147 titles in 1959. 1960 Golden Gloves Inner City Championships. This was held at Madison Square Garden on March 21st, 1960. 175 pounds would be Jeff Davis, and the heavyweight division would be Cassius Clay, Louisville, Kentucky, and he would retain the Title I in 1959. Clay won 175-pound title in 59. Fascinating. So Muhammad Ali, as I said before, you won't get an argument from me as the greatest heavyweight of all times. Although I have Joe Louis, in my opinion, is the greatest, but you will never get an argument with me as Muhammad Ali. There's no argument there. Muhammad Ali was a phenomenal fighter. Phenomenal heavyweight champion. So you can see all these amateur titles. Fighters he had fought. Of his time, the greatest. Stats after stats after stats will show you. Unbelievable. Fascinating fighter was Muhammad Ali. Now here in 1964, here you had Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, facing Sonny Liston, the Ugly Bear.